Once when I was a supervisor, I had to ask my manager a question, but she was behind closed doors, so I knocked on the door. And she said, "Come in." So I opened up the door, and when I opened the door to her office, she had several people in her office, and a few of them were my employees. They were having their own little private luncheon. And I thought, okay, this is a bit inappropriate. So she looked at me and said, "Is this something that you want?" And I said, "Yeah, I need to ask you a question." She said, "Get on my calendar." I said, "Okay." Now, my feelings weren't hurt. I just learned how she conducted herself as a manager, specifically toward me. So I just thought, okay, this is how things are going to go. Okay, fine. So I continue to supervise my staff. But there was this one other manager. She actually worked across the hall in a totally different organization. She started to see me and see my worth, my value. She said, "Carla, I'd like for you to attend a meeting." Then she started to say that more and more and more. I thought, this is pretty interesting. And she would bring me into meetings that had nothing to do with me, but she saw me. So I started to attend the meetings, and she would ask for my perspective. Again, I'm totally in a different world, but she would still ask for my perspective. And this happened often. Well, I didn't have a sense that I fit in with her team. I had a sense that someone saw me and saw my worth, saw my value as a supervisor. And it just made me think that, I'm doing the right thing. I'm growing. I'm expanding my network. And this is where exactly I should be, regardless of how my particular manager conducted herself towards me, treated me, because it was belittling. But I just thought, wow, I'm in a good place. It's a weird place, but I'm a good place. So we're going to talk about belonging. And today I welcome Miss Lisa Medley. Miss Lisa Medley, thank you to Lead Like You Mean It, people. Miss Medley is ICF certified and a certified executive coach, and she's the CEO. She's a powerful voice on belonging, confidence, and leadership. And through EDGE Framework, Lisa helps Black women executives and high-impact leaders strengthen relationships, elevate their presence, and create cultures where people feel seen, supported, and valued. She is also the force behind the I Belong movement, reminding leaders that belonging isn't earned, it's a right. So grab your coffee and settle in. We're going to talk to Miss Lisa Medley of North Carolina. So great to have you. I turn it over to you.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see you.
Yeah, same. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We met over LinkedIn.
Yes, we did. Over my product.
That's right. That's right.
You hit me up about one of the mugs. And you were like, what one of those?
I tell you, I've had plenty of coffee and tea in your mug. I belong. And then I would walk around the house really like I felt like I was of some kind of stature, I'm just walking around with it like, what are you doing with a mug, Carla? But still, it's my mug. It's my I belong mug.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Share a little bit with our audience about your story.
So, in short, I always start on the personal side. I'm a mom. First and foremost, I'm a mom. I have 5 children.
Wonderful.
4 girls and a boy. I was a single parent much of their lives. Divorced when my youngest was young, and the reason I start there is because it really was my biggest challenge to provide as a mother, and kind of pushed me into the leadership direction. I worked for a Fortune 50 company for 16 and a half years, and I was a part of that climb that people in my generation understand and know. Looks a lot different now. I went through and led a team through a massive, in fact, it was the largest merger in banking history to date. It's when Wells Fargo acquired Wachovia. So um, led a large process and team through that phase, and I did some other pretty cool things while there. Ultimately, deciding, at 55, um, now I'm a caregiver for my mom. I needed things to look a little differently, so I focused on expanding my business, which brought me to coaching. The coaching story, I've been coaching now since 2012, but as a business owner, really focusing on expanding. I started that journey in about 2016. And so here I am today, working with executive, primarily Black women, but I do have a variety of clients who are non-Black and not women. Um, and my I Belong movement all came out of the coaching space. So here I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, welcome.
yeah.
So my producer Connie and I, we have joked about it, and I say it all the time. So we have a series of questions. We may get through them, we may not. It just depends on our connection and conversation.
Yeah, it's all good.
So one thing I wanted to ask, with what's going on, I believe this year, please correct me if I'm wrong, there've been 300,000 Black women who have been fired, laid off. Basically, they don't have a job just this particular year. And
Mm-hmm.
some of them are shifting over to entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
From your experience, what are your thoughts concerning the shift that they are thinking about making or that they have already made?
Whoa. Well, I think the first thing I think about is I get it. If I were in the workforce and forced to leave the workforce, um, due to nothing I did, to get displaced or whatever, and I have a family to provide for, then I've got to make things happen, and that's what Black women traditionally do. We know how to make it happen,
Mhm.
and so when I think about these 350,000, and I think the number is climbing,
Wow.
who've left the workforce. I just read a study the other day that talked about these women being, mothers. They have children, childcare.
Mm.
When you have a family and have people dependent on you, and the jobs, people have been searching for jobs for a year long, right?
Wow.
I get the idea of, let me figure something out and make it happen.
Mhm.
Having said that, it is just as challenging on the entrepreneur side. And
Mhm.
so while it is um, somewhat in your control to say, I'll take what I know, right? I'll take what I learned in corporate. I'll take what I learned as an executive director of a nonprofit and start my own business, that is in your span of control. There are so many other dynamics that are not. People are not investing in coaching, for example. Coaching is one of the fields that is completely blowing up
Mm.
because it's an easy way, or it's perceived to be an easy way to start up. You don't have overhead. You can do your sessions over Zoom. You
Yes.
don't have to be certified. You can choose to be certified, right?
Mhm.
You can hang up your sign tomorrow and hit the ground running. Um, but the industry is expanding, and so is the competition, and so there are challenges. But to answer your question, I get it. I don't have any problem per se with it. um, i think that I think that if you are one of those women who, or even men for that matter, who have been forced out of the workforce and you're looking to start your own business, then be smart about it. Do your research, make strategic decisions, and for the love of God, get support while you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about that support. What does that look like?
Yeah, support, you need support in three buckets. You need support operationally, you need support strategically, you need support emotionally. I actually created an assessment, Carla, because it's one of the things that shows up in coaching with my clients often is they don't have the support. They don't have the coaches, the mentors, especially the sponsors. They don't have the emotional outlet, because you're under pressure, you're performing under pressure, you're stressed, you're burning out, and you need that outlet, whatever that support looks like for you emotionally. And then strategically, you got to sometimes get out of your own head or have a second set of eyes to kind of see what you can't see your blind spots.
Yeah. It's something so I'm going to share something very personal. So last week I didn't feel well at all. Like Sunday evening until maybe Thursday or Friday. And I met with my therapist. So I meet with my therapist every 2 months. And she said, "Oh, Carla, she said, is that you don't feel well?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's not like it's the flu or anything. I am just worn out. I just feel beat up." She said, "Well, it could be because you're an entrepreneur and that mentally you're taking this in, but you're not releasing it." She said, "But your body will release it in some form." I had never heard of that, or maybe I heard of it and I never paid attention to it. She said, "Your body will release your anxiety, your frustration in some form." And I thought, that has to be it. But the emotional side, I know for me, when I was working, I was climbing a ladder. And I did the exact same thing. I would get thinking I'm getting sick, but really it was the emotions were coming out and they were being released from my body. And then I just felt like I was sick, but there was no disease. There was nothing like that. I'm saying that to say that that emotional support is so important that you can't hide it, you can't push it aside, because you're going to get damaged some way down the line if you don't have that emotional support. Can you give me examples of what the emotional support would look like from a friend to friend and also from a colleague to colleague? What would that look like?
So friend to friend, feels like the easier one. It's a non-judgmental
beautiful
space where you can be you. And if there's any reservation about that person, placing judgment, blame, any concern about the individual, this friend, using the information in any way that is not meant to build you up, then that is not the direction you need to go. The person, this friend, needs to be a neutral, just zone that you can share anything. And those kinds of friends are not easily found. If you have one, you are so very, very lucky. On the colleague to colleague side, it looks somewhat the same, but we can't expect colleagues to be a completely safe zone. So there are some things you have to still protect, in my opinion. You should be able to enter this conversation still in this non-judgmental, authentic way. This colleague should be one known for listening. You want people who listen more than they speak. The person that speaks often has their own ideas about what your life should look like. And that's
Yes.
generally based on their steps. So you want this space where someone listens more than they speak. And also for a colleague, you want some strategy. You want someone who's been through a fire or two or three and who can add value specifically where you feel you don't have the experience, the knowledge, the expertise to carry yourself over that barrier, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So the person on both ends need to be value add people, but especially on the colleague side, because the friend, I feel like you're venting, you're sharing, you're open, right? And you just want to feel listened to and heard and seen. On the colleague side, you want some of that, but I suspect you also want some direction, right? And some
Yeah, yeah,
expertise and experience.
yeah. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, talk to me before I get into the questions. Talk to me about what is behind your shirt, the mug I purchased. I belong. So, talk to me about that so we can understand the breadth of it.
Well, let me tell you the origin story. Um, the a client is actually responsible for this statement, this
Mhm.
movement. I was working with a Black woman executive in a tech company, predominantly white male dominated, the leadership team.
Mhm.
And she was at that time in charge of diversity. So she was a part of the C suite without a C suite title. She was in the boardroom without the C suite title. She was the only Black woman or woman of color. And she was only one of two women. She was essentially tasked with coming up with a diversity strategy, inclusion strategy for the entire firm. And it was her day coming up to present her data, her model, her recommendations in their board meeting amongst the C suite. And our session was her goal for that session was to really get build her confidence around presenting her ideas, being clear, having the executive presence, etc. And she said, I just don't feel like I belong.
Mm.
And I said, yes, you do. You belong on the calls they have. You belong in the room. You belong at that table. And I told her, in fact, when you are presenting, it becomes your table. It is no longer theirs because you are the expert in the room. You did the research, you collated the data. It is your ideas, it is your intellectual property, it is your table when you are presenting. It is not theirs. They are seated at your table because not one of them can do what they hired you to do.
Mhm.
And I walked away from that call, and I just happened to be building at that time a campaign for a group coaching program I was facilitating for private clients, and I wanted to gift them something for signing up, and it I had the designer create the T-shirt with this phrase on it, and that is how we got started.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And it shifts your mind that I may be presenting to a group of people, even a group of people who are higher than I am.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm the expert in the room.
That's right. This
They're
is
not.
me work. They don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about what you are presenting. Now, that's not always the case, but in large part, it is.
Yeah.
You have been hired for a specific job and a specific reason. And if you're presenting, if you're leading a meeting or an event or whatever you're doing, you've done the legwork that they haven't done.
Right.
So while you may not be a chief of anything, you're a chief of that data.
Yeah.
You're a chief of that information.
Yes.
And you have to walk in that room and own that moment. Belonging is not passive. It is not looking for someone else to affirm you and say that, yes, I accept you. Although that is how it often materializes, it starts with you.
Yeah.
If you don't think you belong, why should they?
Right. Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's a complete mental shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a time, I think I've shared this before, but I remember a time where I had I was responsible for a new project, and I had two people working for me. And they were two males. They were working for me. And then the senior executive, he was in the room. And I remember he asked a question and he looked past me to the two other males. And I thought, okay, maybe this is just something that's, one time off. About a week or two later, he asked another question and he specifically turned his head and he looked past me to the two other males. I said, okay, this is deliberate. So I got on his calendar. I asked my manager to sit in on a meeting. And I told them, I said, now, how do you think I feel when I'm responsible for the project, but you turn your head and you look past me to the other two? And he said, oh, well, Carla, I guess I'm just comfortable with two others. I said, but yet at the end of the day, you're going to hold me accountable. He said, yes, I would. I said, but so you need to come to me. And it was a good conversation, and we were able to build a very positive relationship over time. But I just felt like, you know what? I've got to be able to stand up for myself. Because at the end of the day, I was responsible for the new project. No one else, not my two employees. I was responsible.
Absolutely. And if I may, one tweak to that scenario.
Yes.
When he leaned around, one of our options is to say, excuse me, I don't mind you asking these two, but I'd like to offer my perspective first.
Yes.
Or in addition to.
Yes.
In that moment, in the room, and we shy away from those moments. And this is not at all a reflection of because I get how difficult that can be, right?
No, but this is great information. I appreciate
it. We shy away. We don't want to be viewed as aggressive.
Yeah.
We don't want to be viewed as angry. We don't want to be viewed as disruptive.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a way to do things where you're not, and even if you are perceived that way, the truth is you're not. So it's two parts. Who are you? And how do you want to show up in the space? Do you want to show up as someone who is regulated, but passionate, assertive, but not aggressive, because there's a difference, right? And so you decide in the moment. The conversation you had was necessary, whether you show up in the moment or not. The conversation you had was absolutely necessary. But in the moment, we also have opportunities, because imagine where he would be, what would happen if you had done that in the moment. He ain't gonna do it twice. You mentioned 2 times that he did it. He may try it the first time, and when you say just excuse me, just 1 minute. I know that you really look for Mike and James to, provide some additional inputs. I'd like an opportunity to share my perspective. There's nothing aggressive about that. There's nothing disruptive, nothing angry.
Yeah.
What we have to be careful of is the emotion behind it,
Mm-hmm.
because that could piss you off so much until you feel that on the inside bubble up. And that's what becomes aggressive, because it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, you're not gonna,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
pop off.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want a controlled, regulated, assertive response.
Mm-hmm.
That I appreciate you for looking to those two, but I too have something to say here, and I'd like an opportunity to say it.
So bravo with that, because it still goes back to that lady when you say that I own the table.
Yeah.
So when he asked about the project that I was responsible for, I could have owned the table in that moment in a professional manner. Say, you need to be my executive coach, Lisa. I could have owned the table in that situation, and not only towards him, but my staff would have seen my response in real time as well, instead of, oh, they see a change in him afterwards because of my conversation with him in the meeting at another time. Thank you for
That is called role modeling. And
that.
that is something we need to do more of as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because to your point, that's a very good point. They see the change or the transformation, but they don't know what went into it.
Yes.
If they're sitting there at the table, one, they get to see it in action and you role model for them. Two, it gives them the courage potentially to do the same thing when it's their turn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? They get to see you speaking up and advocating for yourself. There's nothing wrong with advocating for yourself. And if you were not a Black woman in that room, if you were not Black or a woman, right? Because women across the board go through this, but you have the double minority going on. You're Black and you're a woman.
Yes.
If you were not that, nobody would think twice about you saying, excuse me.
100% agree.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that 100%. Okay, I'm going to get to a question here.
Listen, we can go with the flow.
Okay. As you've led inside a Fortune 50 organization and now you coach executives across industries. What experiences shape your understanding of belonging and its connection to effective leadership?
So it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a mindset shift.
Yes.
Right. And so when I think about experiences, I think about all the times in my leadership, along my leadership journey, where I was challenged or looked over, as you just described in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us have had those experiences. And what they have collectively taught me is that, one, it starts with me. And if I don't believe, if I leave an encounter, an engagement, a conversation with my tail tucked between my legs and my head dropped down because I don't belong, they'll continue, and you will continue to have those experiences.
Yes.
When you shift your mindset to say, you may not believe that I belong, you may not treat me as though I belong, but I'm going to treat myself as though I do. You know, if we took leadership out of this for a minute, and we go to your favorite restaurant, and the waiter, waitress, host, hostess does something out of pocket that makes you feel like you don't belong, Do you tuck your tail between your legs and walk out of the restaurant? Or do you say, "Excuse me, may I speak to the manager?"
Mm-hmm.
What's the reason we don't have that same approach in our leadership?
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
It's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yes.
Do you have a greater risk? There's more risk involved
Mm-hmm.
with advocating for yourself in your job. But the mindset is the same. You are not about to treat me like you just treated me.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to get to the bottom of this. And I'm not waiting for a survey at a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
About this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't make a scene in the restaurant. You don't scream. You don't holler, right? You don't lose your emotions. You're regulated. You're calm. One request: can I speak to a manager?
Mm-hmm.
And when the manager comes, you proceed with telling the facts. When I came in, this happened, and this happened. Right? And so I believe that is the mindset and that's the posture we need when we have these experiences at work in our spaces, because it does impact your leadership. It impacts your brand, it impacts how you're seen, it impacts how you move when you, based on how, whether you feel you belong and or own your belonging. Right? Taking ownership for it is what you might do in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Allowing them to own it is the tucking the tail between the legs and kind of walking away with your head down.
Yeah. 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 That's a perfect example. I mean, perfect. Because let's say you go to a high-end restaurant and the maitre d' may look down on you just because of who you are visibly. Well, my green money spends well every place. I've got it. What's the difference? So you're right. It's you taking care of yourself, you advocating, you defending yourself and saying, regardless of what you visually see, I belong here. This is who I am. I belong here.
Right. Now there's a power dynamic at play, because mm-hmm. in a restaurant, you own the power as a customer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ideally speaking. And at work, you may not own the power, but you do own your behavior. You own your mindset, and you own how you choose to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the power or the hierarchy is in that moment, right? You have to make a choice to advocate for yourself or not, even in a power dynamic. So what you talked about at that table, mm-hmm. you weren't in a position of power over that person, but that doesn't mean you're powerless. You still have the ability to speak freely and advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a risk involved, right? You have to weigh the risks. There's a lot of things that are going on at play in the moment. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what the brand you want to create is, how you choose to show up, and what you'll allow people to get away with and not get away with. I mean, it's kind of, I want to say that simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, when you break it down, it is.
It doesn't feel like that in the moment.
No,
it's scary.
It doesn't feel like that. And then the thought is, okay, if I speak up, how am I going to be perceived? And I'll tell you one thing also. So I have this, whatever kind of voice I have. That same manager told me one time, while he was a senior executive, he said, "Carla, you speak with such authority." So in my mind, it comes across that, okay, you're going to think I'm just having a conversation with you. So I had to shift my mind to say, I'm not gonna think anything negatively about the way I speak. This is me. If you don't like it, that's really your issue. So I have to proceed as me. But sometimes little drops will be given to
Right.
particularly a female that, it's unwelcomed or it's aggressive or I just don't like it. Well, I had to learn in that instance without saying it too bad. This is
I
just
would have
me.
said thank you.
I said I actually I said this was crafted from when I was a bill collector years ago.
I mean, it's a compliment. I
Yeah,
think it is a compliment. Thank you.
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
need to speak with authority.
Mm-hmm.
People know you're not playing around, right?
Right, right. Yeah, I've learned to appreciate it instead of the cowering down, but I've learned to appreciate it and just also not even really think about it. It is what it is.
Yeah, of course. And it
Mm,
comes with growth, right? You're
yeah.
older, I'm older. It's
Yep.
easier
Yep.
for us to look back and see some of these things in a moment. It may not have felt like a compliment, but that's why you have your show. And this is why we're talking about leading like you mean it.
Mhm.
When someone says you speak with authority, then that's your clue to say, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
That is my intention. That is the way I choose to show up.
Yeah. Oh, Lisa, I tell you, this should be the Lisa Medley show, and Carla is the client.
Girl.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I want to talk about your EDGE framework.
Yes.
Okay. So emotional intelligence, developmental network, growth
Yes.
mindset,
Yes.
and executive presence. It has become a powerful tool for leadership transformation. How
Yes.
can leaders use these principles to strengthen trust, influence, and confidence on their teams?
So those four things, let me go back to when I started coaching, I didn't have edge.
Mm,
Um, I didn't have edge or the framework, but I wanted to give myself edge. And what I noticed showing up in my coaching spaces, because when I first started, I didn't identify myself as a coach for Black women executives. I coached everyone,
mm-hmm,
right? I believed what I had to offer was useful to everyone, and it is. But from a marketing perspective, we all know niches are important. And I noticed who were the women and who were coming into my pipeline. It was Black women. And as I coached them, I saw patterns. I saw things like confidence showing up, or not having enough, or wanting more confidence. The term imposter syndrome
mm,
shows up, fear shows up. Um, and in some respects, this fixed mindset showed up, right? So I started doing a lot of reading and researching and trying to understand, well, the executives who are executives, how did they show up and how did they get there? Your Ursula Burns, for example,
mm,
the first, chief person of a Fortune 500 company. I think it's IBM or Xerox, one of the two. What made the difference for her and others, right? So I'm reading HBR articles and I'm reading white papers and all these kinds of things, and these themes kept emerging. Emotional intelligence. So, talking about that one specifically, that is about, for me, it's the foundation. And if this was a pyramid, it would be at the base, because you've got to manage yourself before you can do anything else, before you can build trust, before you can influence, before you have confidence. You've got to know who you are. And you've got to know your triggers. And you've got to be able to understand where each and every one of them come from,
mhm,
right? So you talk about self awareness, and self awareness in and of itself is the driver for all the other things related to emotional intelligence. What am I feeling in the moment, not in reflection? What am I feeling right now at this table when this man is looking past me? Can I name the emotion, and do I know why? That is self-awareness. So that is, as the foundation, you are able to now be more comfortable. That's where the confidence sort of rests. I know me. I know my triggers, and I know what's causing them. You move into the developmental network, which is really a scientific term. Um, that's what is called in the research, but it's the support. It's the support arm of who you are. So it's your coach, it's your sponsor, it's your mentor, it's the people in your circle who are designed specifically just for you to help you. And their interest is only you and how they can help you advance, you navigate, you operationalize any of your ideas, any of your strategies. And then we have to move into the G. That's your growth mindset. And if you don't shift your mindset around what you can't do, who you're not, what people are going to think, then you can't advance. You can't move forward. So we've got to do some work around, how am I thinking about this? And what's another way? Within that growth mindset is reframing. And I'm sure that's a term you're familiar with.
Yeah.
How do I have this picture I use in my coaching sessions on, if you hold it up vertically, it looks like a horse. If you flip it around horizontally, it's a frog. And when my clients get stuck sometimes, I ask them, what do you see? And then I turn it and what do you see? And we sit there until they can see two different images, right? And then I say, that's what you need to do with this situation. Right now it's a horse. How do you make it a frog? How do you see it differently? Right? And so that's one of the things that I hope whoever's listening really gets a hold of. Things are as you see them.
Yeah.
You can form your own perception, and people call it manifestation and all these other things, but it really stems from a growth mindset. And then your executive presence. So for me, in my framework, this is where, because again, I work primarily with Black women executives or Black women leaders, this executive presence for me and my framework really play in the authenticity space, right? Let's get rid of the mask. Let's strip it all down. Who are you and what do you want to, what brand are you building? How do you want to show up in the world? I had a client who's been with me probably 3 years now. She set up a time to talk, and she's got this. She's an executive. She's got a pretty high level at her company. It's a large company. And she said, I had this one direct report who essentially is just not performing. And I've already removed her team from her. I don't know what else to do with her. And long story short, we go through the session, and my question is kind of in this authenticity space. How do you want to show up? What story are you telling by keeping this employee around? And who are you? What brand are you creating? What perception are you giving? And what versus what you want to get? What do you want your brand to be? And make the decision from that, not from a how am I going to be perceived, right? So live in your space. And so those are the 4. That's kind of what it looks like. Hopefully it's practical enough for people who are listening to kind of take some gems from it.
Yeah. It made perfect sense. That growth mindset, that stuck with me, because as you grow in your career or in your business, it could be a financial growth, but at the same time, it's so important that you grow. and that you just can't remain the same way, or you're going to get the same results. And
Yes.
again, you may financially grow, but it's really on you to decide. I got to have a different perspective. I've got to learn to shift my mind with a different perspective. That's why I like the horse and the frog. It's just fascinating. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. It's just so fascinating because you have to be able to grow no matter where you are.
That's right.
You've got to be intentional with it.
That's right. You have to be intentional with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This has made me sit here and think. Once we're done, Lisa, I'm going to have to sit here and think a little bit more because it's just so fascinating. You have to continue to grow if you want different results, and you have to have different perspectives as well. If we stay within the same mindset, it's going to hinder us somewhere down the road.
And remember that support network that you're building, that
yes,
mental network, those are the people that can help push you in a different lane. Those are the people, your coach, your mentor, your sponsors, your friends, your therapist, your whoever your support people are. These are the people who can kind of help that mindset grow and help you see some of the blind spots.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit. I've heard you said a couple of times about the sponsors. Talk to me about what a sponsor looks like.
Well, a sponsor is someone who is 100% team Carla, team Lisa, or team whatever your name is listening. This person is someone who is willing to put their name on the line for you. This person spends their political capital on you. Yes. And this person has power, right? Where they're spending the political capital matters. So sponsors can be at all sorts of levels, but when you talk about either being a career professional or a business owner, true sponsorship is about opening doors.
Yeah.
If you think about it in a practical sense, the NFL is sponsored by whoever sponsors them, right? And that sponsor provides additional capital, visibility, or whatever they need to make the NFL successful. So you are a brand, even if you're not a business. Your business needs sponsorship. You need people to refer clients. You need people to share your posts. You need people to show up at your events. And it's even more important for those people to be at a level that others listen to, others move because they say move, right? And so for a professional, you will not advance without one.
Yes.
Period.
I agree. Well, Miss Lisa, I could talk to you for the next 4 hours.
Let's do it,
girl. This has been wonderful, truly. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. So it's not just being an executive coach, but you have wisdom. And thank you for your willingness to just be able to share from your heart. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Carla. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, I haven't
done one of these in a very long time, and I really enjoy the one-on-one conversation. And so I appreciate you sharing your platform and your people with me.
Oh, my pleasure. That's what my pastor would always say to us. My pleasure. I do thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, we thank Miss Lisa Medley for her presence and her wisdom. and her knowledge around executive coaching. Thank you for supporting Black women executives. We thank you for your just for your commitment to this particular show that's on LinkedIn Live, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll place it on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you all. We'll see you again. I believe we will see you again the second Wednesday of November. I had to think for a second. And my producer, Connie, she's going to be our guest. This is going to be fantastic. So again, thank you, Lisa Medley, for your time. And that's the end. We'll see you guys next time. Lead like you mean it, people. Have a good day.